Hi guys, I wanted to speak on humility a bit, and then I'm driving on the freeway and I looked over to the right, and literally there was a sign that said blessed is the meek. God will show up, at the right times all the time. So looking at this manosphere things, I think one of the huge issues is the lack of humility, and the lack of humility often comes from past hurts. People feel like they have to find different coverings, and some of the coverings that they get is it's knowledge, excessive knowledge, excessive self-appraisal, material things. It's kind of like the Tower of Babel, where they were I think they weren't pleased with God, and so they started building all these buildings, this Tower of Babel, which means confusion, to rise themselves above God. Kanye West, he had a song, I don't know which song it was, but he was basically talking about how he tried to make all this money to get to heaven, or his dream was, he had a dream that he would make money to get to heaven. And the next lyric goes something like, he bought a necklace, something like that. So basically he's saying that his dreams were to live richly, and that would have been considered his heaven. There's nothing different than the Babylonians that built this Tower of Babel. So that is the case with the mentality of a lot of people in America: upward mobility, materialism, vanity. These things they think are going to lead them to heaven, but it brings them straight down to hell. Because nothing can replace God, and God is not going to use anything to replace him. That's why the very first commandment is, you shall have no other gods before me. So I was thinking about humility and thinking about Moses, how he was humble, because I'm listening to this Boys and Men song, and it's talking about how he would get there and nothing's stopping him now, and there's no limitations. And I'm like, okay, but how well does this hold up to the Bible? Because if God puts limitations, there's going to be limitations. And if he's saying that you're not going to get there, then you're not going to get there. And the truth of the matter is, Moses did not enter into the promised land because he lost his faith with God. All right? Thinking that you're going to get there isn't necessarily mean that you're going to get there. You need to put your trust in God. But still, nonetheless, God chose Moses because he was humble. He was willing to leave everything that he had to take the Israelites out of slavery. And even though they were accusing him of being a judge over them and all that kind of stuff, he still accomplished his task of getting them out of Egypt, and led them through the desert for 40 years because people refused to be humble to God, and so that's where they stayed. That's how it works. So given this whole manosphere thing, where people are trying to use all this upward mobility to exalt themselves into calling themselves high-value men or high-value women or whatever, this is all just a big facade. It's all a big illusion. They are giving themselves the illusion that they are of more value than what God perceives them. And they're not even thinking about what God thinks about it. I said something about Christian women, they believe in the order in the home and the man being the head and the woman being the lead, and some guy laughed about it, and I said something back, very smart aleck, and he didn't respond. And many of them won't, because the truth of the matter is, a lot of them are very hurt inside, and if you do something, if you step out of their comfort zone, because they're used to dealing with women that are just going to bow down and do what they say because they manipulated them and reduced them to a level in which that's all these women can do, then when a woman comes, or even a man comes and gives them some kind of logic, then a lot of them will end up running. To me, it's no different than the devil fleeing in the wilderness. Not calling them a devil. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and evil in heavenly places. And that's basically what's controlling these people in the manosphere and on the internet as well. So these people are building up false gods, false coverings for themselves, and that's why they can't really get any true peace. And they can't even really get the woman that they're looking for, because unfortunately you reap what you sow. And so if you're going around speaking as though women are below you, and you can have as many as you want and all this kind of stuff, then you're going to have some issues, because this is not the way of God. That's the way of the enemy. And so you keep ending up in these relationships that are basically tearing you down, because you're tearing other people down. We literally reap what we sow, like I said. So these people are basically building a Tower of Babel, trying to be God, and even some of them call themselves God, like this, I don't know, his last name's Tate. I was watching a video of him and this girl named Cheyenne. It's like Chian, and they went on a date together, and I've seen some of her videos before, and when I look at her, I'm like, wow, she's really a catch. Like, you'd be an idiot not to want to date this girl seriously. And so I was interested in seeing the video because he's kind of like this, he's really a haughty type deal. He's got an answer for everything, and if you don't agree with his answer, then he's... All right, sorry I got cut off. So I was saying this, John, I don't know his last name is Tate. He's part of the manosphere, this whole alpha thing. I don't understand all the alpha and beta and all this kinds of things. I just know I don't want a man to run over me. And from the way I perceive it, these men consider themselves alpha men. But like, not a man that I would want. I don't know what woman would want that. But as I was saying, you know, if you don't agree with him, then he starts yelling, and like he almost forces you to want to believe the same thing he believes just so you won't get yelled at. Who wants to deal with that in a marriage for 40 years? Like, who wants to be yelled at all their lives? Like, no. So, I don't know. There just wasn't a lot of humility with him. And, you know, while these men, they go around sleeping with all these women, they're probably not sleeping with women that they consider high value, because no woman that knows her worth is going to be dealing with that. Like, before I came to the Most High, I was probably one of these women that men perceived as just like a hookup, because, you know, I would go out, I would be half naked and all this kind of stuff, and at the club, hoping, like a pick-me, they call her a pick-misha, and that was basically me, and so that's how men perceive me. But now that I've come to God, you know, I know my worth. God says we're worth more than rubies. You're not going to talk to me like that. And I won't even say you're not going to talk to me like that. I'll just end the date. Like, she stayed in this date way too long. That date was like, the video was like 30 minutes long or something like that. And I'm like, I would have left within the first 10 minutes. I don't need to prove anything to you. I don't need to prove that I'm smarter. None of that kind of stuff. Like, I just don't want to be around you. You're not delightful to be around. And if you're not delightful to be around within the first 10 minutes, then how are you going to be like a whole lifetime? So there's a lack of humility with a lot of these men, and you know, that's why mentally they're in hell, and while they're trying to blame everything on women, when a lot of it's just them reaping what they sow. So, you know, the beauty of humility is when you start to humble yourself and realize you're not the only person in the world. And the Bible even talks about considering your brother as more than you. You start to put other people before you. You care about those around you. You will notice that your whole mood will lighten. You'll start to attract people like that are just better for you, and just the beauty of it. Those are the blessings of God. That's why that sign says, blessed are the meek. And it even continues in the Bible saying, blessed are the humble, which I think it's very similar. And so, you know, unfortunately, you can reap curses and you can reap blessings depending on your disposition and your thoughts and that kind of thing. And if your thoughts are, I'm just going to tear down God's creation left and right for no reason because I need to deal with things inside of myself, then that's exactly what you're going to get, unfortunately. I guess this man went in a date with Cheyenne and was basically like, I'm just going to try to make her mad. And I've seen that before with men, where they try to make you mad because they're trying to get some kind of emotional reaction out of you just so you can like have that connection, because there are spiritual connections that happen between people in the spirit realm. So, and it might create some kind of intrigue as well if you've got some issues going on. And then also, especially if you think you know it all and you really do need to be humbled, you're going in with a manipulative tactic to begin with. That means to me you're not really about a serious relationship, and you're not really a man of the value that you say you are. Like, you're trying to make me mad? I don't want a man that's going to try to make me mad. Like, no. Again, I don't want to deal with that all my life. So the women that they're getting are going to be women that are okay with dealing with that for the rest of their lives. They're okay with their husband making them mad purposely to try to get a reaction or to make them feel like they're less than what they are. No, you're going to get a low value woman, as you call them. So, but a real man, what he's going to do is he's going to uplift the women in his life. He's going to uplift his wife. He's going to uplift his daughters. He's going to uplift even women that he doesn't know, because he has the power and the energy and the spirit to be able to do that. And that's literally what the word of God does for people. Like, it gives you the ability to love even your enemy, to love those that you don't even know. And that to me is a man that is a high value man, because you can love me and you can love this person on the street you never met. Like, that's impressive. I don't want to hear nothing about how you got a condo here and a yacht here and there, and that, you know, even though you can't even stay faithful to your girlfriend, that you're a high value man. Like, no. That's another thing. They think it's okay to cheat on their girlfriends because this guy tried to say, oh, well, men in the past were polyamorous, and he tried to put the Bible in it. And I'm like, don't try to put the Bible in this, because God made one man and one woman from the beginning. When men started getting extra women, that's when they ended up having problems. Jacob didn't even want want 2 women to begin with. He was deceived in it. Solomon had tons of women, and he ended up falling away from God for it. Then you had David that stole somebody else's woman. So all these polyamorous relationships, they were literally from just something going awry, basically. And then in the New Testament, it talks about in 1 Corinthians 7, you're actually just supposed to have one husband and one wife, and that's it. And that's how God ordained it from the beginning. So if you're seeing all these polyamorous relationships in the past, it's because many of these people were pagans, or they were patriarchs that got caught up in something that they weren't supposed to be in, because they fell away from God, or someone else fell away from God and ended up deceiving them. Oh yeah, it's just wise for women to do the research and that kind of thing, because if a man is a fast talker, then he can pretty much tell you anything that he wants to tell you. And if he's very knowledgeable, even those things that aren't really true are going to sound knowledgeable and true as well. So you guys be blessed and have a good one. Bye.